Hi, it's Jo Harris here, and this is a short video on the legal considerations for inclusive education in Australia. And the purpose of this is to give a brief overview that's not possible in this greater depth within the report in which this video is embedded. So let's have a look at the consideration. Well, it's all about the rights, both morally as a society, that we have to ensure that there is equal opportunity for all to have civic success once they leave school. And it's also our moral responsibility to ensure that all students receive an education that's free from discrimination. And we also have legal responsibilities and rights, as we all each as individuals have legal rights and human rights to include diversity within education, and along with that right comes a responsibility that all can learn without disruption, and it's an environment that is conducive for learning for all. Now, there are a range of considerations to take into place around the legal. It starts with the international human responsibilities from the UN Convention of the Rights of a Child from 1989. And here the world made a promise to children that we would do everything in our power to protect and promote their rights to survive and thrive, to learn and grow, and to make their voices heard and to reach their full potential. And that was sourced from the unicef.org CRC, and you'll see these resources list under my references. And then it went on in 1994 with the Salamanca Declaration, and here a commitment was made to education for all, to recognise the necessity and urgency of providing education for all children within the regular education system, and that was from that source there, which I'll once again provide you. And then along came 6 years later the World Education Forum by UNESCO in 2000, and here they reaffirmed the commitment of education for all, and to turn that with a drive to make that declaration into reality and to provide basic education for all and decrease worldwide illiteracy. And that was from the UNESCO website there as well, which you will find. And then finally we moved to the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability 8 years later in 2008. And then we moved closer to home. So we've looked at the international considerations. Now look at the legal Australian considerations for education. And here we have a number of declarations, starting with the Hobart Declaration of Schooling, and that set the national goal for schooling in Australia, and they outlined 10 goals in particular, and here is the website for that. And then in a year later, that Hobart Declaration was superseded by the Adelaide Declaration of National Goals for Schooling in the 21st Century, and that 21st century included in that title gives you a hint of what that declaration was all about. It's about Australia securing our future for our children as future citizens of Australia, and in fact the world, in our global world that we now live in. And that means the students have the knowledge, understanding, skills and values to live life that is productive and rewarding. And that's as a society that we are well educated and a just society and open, and that we provide high quality schooling to all our students. And that was from the website here. Now, and then along came, I guess 9 years later, the Melbourne Declaration, and it set goals for education in Australia for the next 10 years, which will take us through to the year 2018, I believe. And it outlines what the goals that will enable our students today who leave school to have civic success, that as a society we're cohesive and we have a shared and acknowledges the shared responsibility for each child between the school, the parent and the student and family and community, that we all have a collective responsibility to ensure that our children are equipped to be civically successful. And it acknowledges the role of school in promoting the development of our young Australians in their intellectual, physical, social, emotional, moral and spiritual and aesthetic. So it's not just about education, as you can see, which is more intellectual, traditionally thought to be intellectual only, but it embraces the whole child. And it also recognises that there are changes afoot globally and that there are now new demands on education, and that was sourced from the declaration there. And then we move a little bit closer to home in education and narrowing the lens and the focus. And if we look at the Australian curriculum, they specifically look at student diversity, and that we have a high quality curriculum for all Australian students, because all students are entitled to rigorous, relevant and engaging learning programs drawn from a challenging curriculum that addresses their individual learner needs. because teachers will use the Australian curriculum to develop teaching and learning programs that build on students' strengths, goals and learning needs and address the cognitive, affective, physical, social and aesthetic needs of all students. And that was sourced from the Australian curriculum. And then we drill down even deeper. I live in the state of Queensland, so I have legal responsible citizen of Queensland, and then I also have, as an educator, must apply to the Teachers Code of Conduct, more specifically the Queensland College of Teachers Code of Ethics, and that outlines what's my responsibility fall under the banners of integrity, dignity, responsibility, respect, justice and care of my students, and that is from the Queensland College of Teachers. And then we move even closer still, and we have different educational bodies here in Queensland. We have independent schools, Catholic schools, and in particular, as an example, as a Catholic school in Bundaberg, I would fall under the Rockhampton Diocese Catholic Education Code of Conduct. And then we have state schools, and specifically schools, and drilling even further down to the Shalom College in Bundaberg Code of Conduct. And each school within each of these umbrella organisations would have their own school code of conduct about inclusive education, as well as a school document. Now, the legal considerations for inclusive education are really ultimately dependent on each individual educator interpreting them, understanding them, taking action, and having the skill and ability to implement an inclusive education in their classroom, and even deeper than that, within each contact with each student in their classroom. And please refer to the LiveBinder resource, which is in the appendix, for all these websites are under the Legal Considerations tab. Thanks for that. Bye for now. Jo Harris.